In a world of pro wrestling videocasts, this is certainly one of the newest. This is Whacked Out Wrestling. Hello, everybody. This is Whacked Out Wrestling, and it's giving you more things on it because clearly there isn't enough things of a big fat neckbeard talking about a child's show. I am Thomas S.K. Green, and with me is John Roche on Skype. Hey. And this is just getting some more of the benefits on it because we're still trying to work out the bugs, but as it keeps going, it can keep going for these ones. And so at least this week we have a lot of big things from the show that was live from the NBA Champions home arena. I think they mentioned that a few times. And of course we had some extra big bonuses for it with SmackDown, Raw, and SummerSlam in the same place. Next year it's coming to Boston, which hopefully would be a good thing since I'm local to New England, except for the fact that it's expensive as hell and I don't want to pay for a room there. I learned my lesson last time at Anime Boston, and that was with 3 other people, folks. So I'm doing it solo.
Okay.
Yeah. But as we saw from SummerSlam, the results of the main show on it, because they didn't get the results from the pre-show on these ones, were Becky Lynch defeating Natalya in a battle of the Canadian Icon, who no one cared about during the show, up against Becky Lynch, who had one of their big events there, and it was what it was simply because, much like the Kofi versus Ziggler feud this year, it was like, you don't want the other person to win. It's more like, you're very good, I recognize you're good, but I just don't want to see you anymore. That's really what it comes down to. With Natalya and Ziggler, it's just, I think we should see other people and not being friends on this one. I'm not friend zoning your asses. Just go away. AEW's hiring. That apparently they have 80% of their people. And hell, if they could make stuff like Jon Moxley versus Shawn Spears, their second main event for the Boston show on this one on TNT, they're willing to give anybody a chance. I mean, seriously. This is what we were worried about with AEW. They're very good. They know how to make a good show, but the TNA is so far inside them right now, and you don't want to go full TNA. You go full TNA, it's like going full retard. You never go full retard. We knew that 10 years ago, people. Did we just forget Tropic Thunder's lessons?
Take one step back, literally fuck your own face?
Exactly. And that's really this point. But it does tie to the next match, as we had Dolph Ziggler get his biggest match possible with Goldberg. And even though I just said that stuff, I'll admit it. In that place in my heart where you don't want to talk about at parties, I was excited to see this match simply because Ziggler can sell his ass off. Goldberg can make people sell his ass off. It was going to be a thing of beauty. And this is one of the benefits with how a lot of places won't review the short matches on it, but honestly, the short matches are what's good on this one. I was sports entertained. That's all that you need to say here. I was entertained by this match because you got to see Ziggler get murked by the greatest murker on all of wrestling history in Goldberg. There's not much more you have to do with that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, basically the Goldberg matches are pretty much sort of McDonald's of professional wrestling. It's not particularly substantive, but you know what you're getting.
Yeah. And when it's someone like Ziggler, you know you're going to get Ziggler's going to bump like a pinball, and that's what he did. There's nothing more to it. And sometimes a really short match that's at least incredibly fun is all that matters. Like that match was super fun. That's all it needed to be. It didn't need to give me 5 snowflakes from Meltzer or stuff like that, because we can get that from other places. Just give us some matches that are fun. That's the whole problem with wrestling right now, where they're not giving you anything that's just fun to watch. Your thoughts?
I don't really have anything to add to that.
Mm-hmm. And then going for more things on the fun, we get the New Day hanging out with Drake. And of course, it's Drake Maverick there. Which is, yeah. So he's looking for some R-Truth and Carmella. And apparently they were on part of the announced team, which is one of the things where they should just have an announce this button that says Carmella and R-Truth on it. It would work quite as well like the NBA ones of English, Spanish, and Moses Malone.
I mean, it is kind of an interesting swerve they had. Like, they make you think they're going to have a rap star, but instead they have rock star.
Yes, exactly. And that's always the case on it. Plus, it just makes sense when you think about it. I mean, even if it's just a rock star spud, just think of it this way. He's a little guy. He's got light skin. He looks like he makes love to young girls. Pretty much the same as Drake, right?
Oh, God.
His fault for going after the chick from Stranger Things. We just said it. You don't want to be canceled. Don't do the things that get you canceled. We can handle being canceled because no one watches us. The next match on this one was AJ Styles versus Ricochet, and this was the same as pretty much every other match on it, because much like everything since AJ Styles formed the OC, they've been on the run, driving in the sun, looking out for number 1, California, here we come, right back where we started from. And this was one where Ricochet did well in this one, tried to get his toe back, but ultimately it was Gallows and Anderson were like, welcome to the OC, bitch. And he was taken out by a nice Styles clash in midair.
What you say? That you only meant well, Kofi.
So then you had one of the most disappointing matches of the card, which was Bayley versus Ember Moon, and this could have been so good on paper, but it's one of those things where Bayley's usually good at carrying workers that are worse, but even with this one, this exposed the reason why Ember Moon's failed on the main roster. She's very good as a wrestler. She doesn't have much character, which is why she's been surpassed by the other people in her generation of NXT women, but everyone assumes she's the best women's wrestler ever, and really, she's the female Petey Williams, is what it comes down to. She's a solid wrestler, nothing to write home about, but has one move that's easily ready to write home about it. And that is what she is. And unfortunately, this match and the Charlotte match seems to expose that Ember Moon is basically that.
All we need to do is give her a Scott Steiner gimmick and she'll be ready.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that chainmails wouldn't work well for this one, because it doesn't work for the evil werewolf vampires warrior on it to also have chainmail.
Yeah, that would be a bit much.
Yeah. Plus, she isn't fat, so it wouldn't work for Scott Steiner. See, we're still looking to get controversy, because like the new SmackDown heady, it says controversy equals cash. Cancel us, people. We want it. We want the controversy.
Sure, the best that men can be.
Exactly. Coming up next, we have Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in the big battle of one of the weaknesses where Owens had lost everything if he loses, but Shane McMahon loses nothing at all if he wins. And that's always the weakness, because once you do that, you're pretty much saying odds are the person who's going to lose something wins, so doesn't help on this one. But at the end of it, it was clear that we had a new person. The Omni-Shane is over, and we right now I just got to check out the list of all the things that Kevin Owens won in this match, because it's a doozy. This is the weakness of these things. Hopefully it goes through. Okay, just looking through, because there is a lot of stuff that Kevin Owens now has in this form. Okay, from beating Shane McMahon at SummerSlam, Kevin Owens is now all of the following things. Kevin Owens must now be managed by Stacy Keibler. He won that as linearly. Kevin Owens is now the father of Dominic Gutierrez, who again, linearly there, but which is surprising, because apparently the Observer reported today that the WWE is interested in him in a year, and they're hoping his training goes well. But if that happens, his father is now Kevin Owens, and he'll be there. He has Kevin Nash's fantastic hair, which he won linearly. Kevin Owens is now allowed to date Stephanie McMahon linearly. He's also married to Lita linearly. And if Brian Kendrick's being the man with a plan was defended, he would be that man with the plan right now. Which helps, because as introduced by Ric Flair, to be the man, you have to beat the man. Kevin Owens is now the man. He is the leader of the NWO. He is the owner of Rusev Street. He has custody of Al Snow's head. And he owns the action figure of Yoshitatsu's leg. He is the literal best in the world and the figurative best in the world from the Pipe Bomb promo. And he's the original World Heavyweight Champion. All these things happened just by Kevin Owens beating Shane McMahon. If you ever... What?
I was saying, well done, Kevin Owens.
Yes. You earned every one of those honors. And unfortunately, we didn't have linear things from ECW of who got permission to have a threesome with Kimona and Beulah, which, if now he's married to his own wife, plus Stephanie McMahon, plus Lita, he probably should get on to earning. So that goes from there, and now we had the dream match on it of Charlotte and Trish Stratus, and once again you have proof that Canada loves Trish Stratus, not seen because no one was really cared about these things, went through. And again, it was what it was. A lot of people are saying it was a really good match. I wasn't really feeling it that much. It was perfectly solid. I'm not saying it was bad, but just didn't feel it for the most part. Like, it was what it was, and at least it's proof that Trish could have hung with the current era if she had come up in this decade, but really there wasn't that much to say on it. People are saying it was great, but I just don't see it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that seems like a fair assessment to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then we had this Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton match where they take the great storyline and went to, you held me back all that time. Yeah, I did. And of course we had the battle from this one where Kofi's trying to get his mojo back and Orton's just being stupid. So Then we had this, and ultimately it went to a double count out because this time the referee was the one being stupid. And is what it is. Like, ultimately, probably could have had a finish, but can't say otherwise because this could have some legs to go further. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that. I mean, I didn't think Orton would win it. I mean, even though since day one he told us this was his destiny.
No,
wrong promo.
Yeah.
Wrong wrestler, in fact.
Yeah. The destiny was Alberto El Cabron, so.
Oh, no, I was thinking more Charlotte.
Yeah. That could work on these ones because I don't think that Charlotte cared about the WWE title. So at least not until Tessa Blanchard inevitably wins the Impact title, and they need to do that just to give Charlotte another honor.
Well, it is her destiny.
Yes. I thought that was. I know that there was some time, but I thought she was with Andrade, not Alberto. So.
Right, yeah.
So then we had the match everyone was talking about in this one as the Finn Balor takes on someone else in a costume, and what a costume it was! Bray Wyatt in a weird mask with a song that sounded way too much like Johnny Gargano's for my taste for a wrestler like The Fiend. But whatever happened, it's finally Bray Wyatt is money. It's been so bad for so long. I mean, if you don't have something for Bray Wyatt, you suck as a writer. That gimmick should be easy, and it's easier now for it. And of course, finally, the Fiend looked like a monster. He looked badass. This is what we wanted from Bray Wyatt, and not what we wanted from WWE 2K20, because in giving us the Fiend Bray Wyatt, they gave us a version of WWE 2K20 with just Halloween-themed horror stuff. Really? 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 Horror-themed DLC. The DLC for 2K20 is so good because what made it work is that they got everybody, WWE, NXT, all around onto the thing. If this leads to us realistically losing Kushida and Eric Bugenhagen and all the people from NXT who came up around February, March, so they could give us horror-themed and other-themed DLC like this, that doesn't work, people. This is going back to the era of John Cena's friend Tony and Jack Swagger in a Lucha Libre mask. The stuff that nobody was playing as in WWE SmackDown vs. Raw.
Hey, let's not forget SmackDown Just Bring It, Fred Durst.
Yeah, but at least Fred Durst had some benefits. You could use him as your jobber, for example. And that's always good, because having Fred Durst get beaten up is always a good thing. It's why Fight Club worked so well as well. You could have Fred Durst get his ass kicked. There's a good cottage industry in, I just want to beat the crap out of Fred Durst. And that's what you want from these ones, but just having these doesn't work like it. Just give us the Fiend on it. And yes, there's some positives, like we know that now Nikki Cross will be in this game after she was a snub last year due to contractual issues, so at least they have that going for it, which is nice. And then you had the big one, Seth freaking Rollins versus Brock Lesnar. And we have the things of Lesnar goes to Suplex City, blah, 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 Suplex City, bitch, Suplex City, bitch, 10. I don't listen to enough rap to do Tiga here, so. Wait a second. Rollins won? You're kidding me. Rollins actually won? They did the right thing? They did the right thing!
To quote Damien Sandow's entrance, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah.
I did not know that Damien Sandow came to the ring to Jeff Buckley. But considering that a lot of Damien Sandow's things made me want to see him drowned in a river, that is very possible.
Oh no, that was their version of Handel's Messiah that they could copyright, I think.
Yes. I thought that Handel's Messiah was a public domain thing for it. Like how they could do something that's basically Flight of the Valkyries for Daniel Bryan, but it wasn't totally there.
Yeah, but I think they have I think they put their own take on it, so I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, either way, it sounded a lot more like the classic Hallelujah that's good and not the classical music version. So, but then we went
the one that's not about the second coming.
Yeah, well, I think that's what the Hallelujah was about in the other version as well. Just a different type of second coming. So then we had the start as we had Seth Rollins to come to the ring and talk about how he beat Brock Lesnar again as more proof of, get it, he's the guy now. We gave you Tyler Black as the guy. Roman Reigns is no longer the top dog anymore. Accept it.
Implying that anyone would have trouble accepting it after hating Roman Reigns for so long.
I don't know. It's a benefit that 10 years ago, people were despising Tyler Black as the guy in Ring of Honor, and now he's somehow the better one here, so. But then we lead to AJ Styles getting us a match with him, and that leads to the Greek chorus of Raw, the Street Profits getting into this to talk about this one and do nothing else in particular, as Sami Zayn somehow proves that he's the critic of the internet fans by saying exactly what the internet fans think, that everybody who comes from NXT is ruined by it. So, doesn't seem to work there. And that leads to more of the problems as Samoa Joe beats Zayn in 45 seconds for saying that Joe lost his touch on the main roster. Then he proceeded to take his side and say that the fans can go fuck themselves because they blamed him for doing it against Roman Reigns. So this was not one of Heyman's best things on it because everything seemed to go in different directions. I could see it making sense, but also, yeah. So then after this one, we had to prove that Dolph Ziggler was not a fluke, so of course we put him up against The Miz. And Miz beats him just like Ziggler did. And Ziggler tries calling out Miz again. I think this is proof that Ziggler may have gotten spared so much he got CTE, which probably is fine on this one now to make jokes of, because New Japan World put up a free match of Chris Benoit this week, and no one had a problem with this for some reason, because it's okay to cheer a murderous fuckhead if he does suplexes. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I wonder if they're doing some sort of weird thing with where this is going to be Dolph's thing now. Like, he goes out, he gets his ass kicked, he talks more smack to the guy who just kicked his ass, then he gets his ass kicked some more.
That would actually work on these ones, but it also has the weakness that this would be the third guy on the show who's being emasculated as his gimmick. You have Ziggler, Drake Maverick getting emasculated by his wife and not being able to consummate their marriage, and Mike Kanellis, who's told by Maria, maybe you're not the father of my child, and being treated like a cuck. Well, on the plus side, it'll work for up, up, down, down because they just need one more person whose gimmick is that they're a cuck, and they'll have plenty for Nintendo Switch tournaments.
That hurts, man. That hurts.
Well,
I have a Nintendo Switch.
So do I on this one, and that's one of the weaknesses of doing these ones because I can't be pulled away from playing Nintendo Switch all this for the last few weeks now. So
yeah, you're playing that new Fire Emblem game, aren't you?
Yeah, it reminds me of Final Fantasy VIII, and if you know anything about me or what the SK stands for, you know that is the highest praise I can give a game.
Yeah, I might have to check that out myself. I remember playing the two ones that came out on the Game Boy Advance in the US. I believe they were Blazing Blade and Sacred Stones. I remember them.
Yeah.
I remember how utterly broken bishops were at Sacred Stones.
I could definitely see it on these ones because most of my tactical RPG stuff was from Disgaea, so having something that's actually serious on it was the question mark, but it went from play this so you actually care about it when another sword character gets it added to this is good to now I'm just depressed because I actually like the side characters in this one. There's a lot of characters that I enjoy, but they're gonna put the main character in, and it's gonna be boring. Because they always put the protagonist in. Even if the protagonist is basically a copy of at least two of the other ones in Smash Brothers. Yeah. But back to the wrestling. We had Ricochet interfering with Elias's concert, even though he didn't have much interference beforehand, even though Edge showed up and caused chaos there. But Ricochet actually gets the win on Elias and helps things there. Surprisingly, he didn't get fined $100,000 for it, so there is that. And then we had a two out of three falls match with Rey Mysterio, and coming up next on stage, put your hands together for Andrade. And it probably did through because unlike most of these ones, we only got two dances out of this one as Andrade beats Rey in two straight falls. And that was a shock to it. It's also a shock because they had so many good matches on SmackDown, and yet they didn't give it any time for this. So it is what it is there. But
you feel like if they're going to give anyone time, they're going to give it to Rey and Andrade. Because imagine what they could do with even 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, we can already know it because their SmackDown series was amazing. So
right.
And so it did work, and then Rey was a little bit disheartened by it, which led to more fun by the Greek chorus. But who cares about that? We've got a Skype call with Steve Austin. And
what?
Austin.
What? The
guy with the Stunner.
What?
The guy with the new TV show on Monday.
Oh, okay, that guy.
Yeah. And then he talked about his new TV show, but also put over Seth Rollins in exchange. And most of what I saw before it kicked out on my thing said at least it was completely acceptable. At least as a lead in from Raw, I could see a Steve Austin talk show working better than a reality show about a guy nobody cares about who got busted by the tax people and blackmailed his daughter with a sex tape made of her. Fuck Todd Chrisley. No, wait, I shouldn't say that. Todd Chrisley would probably like being fucked by us. There's sometimes when you can say jokes like this and know that it's a very inclusive, diverse fan base of pro wrestling, and everyone's welcome under the pro wrestling umbrella. And yet also say, Todd Chrisley is so far in the closet, he's having adventures in Narnia. But going back to this, we had Drew McIntyre trying to end his feud with Cedric Alexander once and for all, and we had another good match between the two of them. But ultimately, McIntyre finally got the win against Cedric. But they're both going to be in King of the Ring next week, so that's going to be a plus there. And at least King of the Ring is going to have some benefits. So there is the field has been announced for it. Just getting that. So.
Who was the last King of the Ring? Was that Sheamus or Wade Barrett?
Wade Barrett.
Ah, okay.
So that also helps on it, because it seems like they always do it when there's a main eventer who's got their act is stale, but they need something to do to keep them in the main event, and they decide, let's just make him a king. Kings are funny. That's some good shit. So, of these ones, the 8 men on Raw in the tournament are The Miz, Drew McIntyre, Ricochet, Baron Corbin, Cedric Alexander, Samoa Joe, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn. Of that list, I'd be willing to bet that Corbin seems to be the most stale, so he'd probably need the repackaging to be a king. But Drew McIntyre and Cesaro are both stale as well, and both of those guys would make a very good king. And on SmackDown, you've got Kevin Owens, Ali, Apollo Crews, Chad Gable, Elias, Andrade, Buddy Murphy, and Shelton Benjamin. And this is one of the weaknesses here, because there is no one who'd really be stale enough to deserve it. Maybe Shelton Benjamin, but he seems like a first-round elimination anyway, so. Possibly Buddy Murphy if the best-kept secret thing can't work because the secret's out now, so. There's a few other options they could go with, but right now my gut's telling me it's going to be King Drew McIntyre.
Suzuki-gun will be gravely displeased.
Well, yes, but at the very least on this one, they did give a big push on NXT to Jordan Miles, so they have someone who can give them some anime merchandise to please Minoru Suzuki.
Ah, okay.
From there, we had a random squash match as Robert Roode squashed No Way Jose, which was basically, yeah, we'll throw you a win on your hometown. What makes sense. Which was what it was, as you had one guy who was good in NXT but got found out on the main roster as just a theme song, and the other one was No Way Jose. Then we had a tag match for the same thing, as the Revival took on Lucha House Party, which could be a very good tag match between 4 very good performers. So of course they throw it out and have the 24/7 match. But on the plus side, we have the first co-winners of a title since Lay Cool did it in 2010, as the Revival won the 24/7 title, and then R-Truth beat him, and then Elias beat him. So Elias is champion again. From there we had, From there we have Natalya cutting a promo where she did Natalia's thing of turning heel and face and heel of every so often. Come to the ring, face, then says that everything she did to Becky was justified, then heel, then everything in this one was a heel because now she has a dead father, so that's also a good one. And they keep going with this one, and eventually it went through. It's the moment we had a happy ending for The Long National Nightmare is over. And as a result of the happy ending, let us play the song of her people.
Drew here. Is that fair to say? Absolutely. I'm the boss.
Play the song of her people.
Well, the first thing I do is talk to corporate, approve memos, lead a workshop, remember birthdays, direct workflow, my own bathroom, micromanage, promote synergy, hit on Deborah, get rejected, swallow sadness, send some faxes, call a sex line, cry deeply, demand a refund, eat a bagel, a rapid lawsuit, no promotion, fist the vodka, shit on Deborah's desk, buy a gun in my mouth.
Are you still there?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the weakness when you have to play the song of their people. So, as Sasha Banks has come back to WWE and came back as a bad guy. This was apparently predicted by many, many people, but they predicted it so many times that eventually it doesn't count as a good prediction if you predicted it every single week for a month, and then suddenly when it happens, you're right. But at least on the plus side, Sasha Banks moved into into the blue thing on this one, which is probably planning for her to be feuding with the Kabuki Warriors, as she had to get the skills of Rey in order to defeat Asuka. Your thoughts on the return?
It's good to see Sasha Banks come back. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her.
Yeah.
Assuming they do anything with her.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's more than likely they have to do something on it, because it seems like every time someone said the magic words of AEW's called, they say, we'll give you double the money, we'll do something with you, we'll actually give you a title run, we'll actually let you win a title match for once. So then we had some more things on it, as once we got Sasha's return, we went to another Viking experience. And some jobbers got squashed easily, so we can focus on the next match after that, which was the Friendship and Kofi experience up against the Kabuki experience. And this was just pretty straightforward, as Alexa and Nikki get the win and keep going for this one, which makes sense because they needed the title on the line with people to actually put on TV, so that's one of the weaknesses. They didn't do much with it with Sasha and Bayley, and they didn't put the Iconics on TV enough to do something with it. So if they actually use it for Alexa and Nikki, it'll be a good thing.
That's the advantage of all that coffee. It can be awake, aware, ready for Asuka.
Yeah, they can this is one of the benefits. They're finally part of the group of the Coffee Achievers. Yes, we go old school for our references here, people, because we have way too much free time. And then we have the main event as Seth Rollins takes on the OC as AJ Styles continues his defense. And this was pretty straightforward. The OC gets banned, the OC comes back, DQ, and Rollins wins. And then they actually do something with Braun Strowman. How about that? But on to Raw, as we have Kevin Owens cutting a promo about how winning King of the Ring is just as important as if he beats Shane McMahon, even though he just won all those things beforehand. And he gets fined $100,000 for fighting Elias, as in the guy who's a reigning champion and also a star there. So clearly just being unfair on this one. Same evil McMahon versus good guy who does a stunner, so is what it is. We get the next one as Charlotte Flair faces Ember Moon, and it was more of the proof that Ember's very good, but she's just not a WWE superstar for it. Like, some people are better outside the WWE main roster. Some would be better in NXT, and Ember Moon seems like she'd be better off out NXT. We got Rowan and Bryan saying that they didn't do it after last week's claims on it, and that they hated that people believed they did it because this is society and it doesn't matter if you did it, just that everyone believes you did. Aleister Black does Aleister Black things. Samoa Joe defeats Kevin Owens in a pretty straightforward match on it, and goes through. Same attacks by Elias and Shane McMahon. So at least we're keeping the same thing going there. And for the best, because it looks like they're going to need to go in a new direction for the Fox premiere. So no better way than to have Shane lose power at that one. We had the big Roman Reigns versus Buddy Murphy match that was surprisingly good for Murphy. This was the coming out party people expected from Murphy from long ago, so this was good there. And then Bryan and Rowan attack him because he was a liar and get mad at him. And then we get our main event of Revival and Orton taking on the New Day, and the Revival and Orton get the victory. So pretty much a straightforward one, but it also seems like they're going through the motions on SmackDown till Fox, so pretty much easier to go through the motions here as well. Any other news from this week?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah.
Wait, let me check. Apparently, tonight's NXT tapings have a big spoiler, but we don't want to do the big spoilers.
Yes. If you're watching NXT in the next few weeks, we remind you, Rosebud was his sled.
Snape killed Dumbledore.
No! You bitch! You bitch! This is one of the weaknesses of the mirror of this thing, where you can actually see your facial reaction when that happens.
And apparently, Enzo is planning to inflict himself on the wrestling world once again.
Well, honestly, it could make sense on this one, because if Ring of Honor was willing to take a chance on Enzo, that clearly means that Enzo Amore is now an indie darling and has to go to NXT where he can be a real star. But speaking of the NXT people, we had the new NXT class come in this week. Less known wrestler who went in was the wrestler Jesse from Chile for it as an extra warm body in this performance center. But the big names that came through were, you had Austin Theory, the reigning Evolve champion, is now on the NXT brand, which we knew from TakeOver, but he got a Conway pop there. Like, you could hear a pin drop for this guy, so let's just say this is not boding well for the Austin Theory experience in WWE. Likewise, it was announced that was pretty much known beforehand. El Hijo del Fantasma, or King Cuerno to Lucha Underground fans, check it on Tubi TV because it's free and it's so awesome you have to. Is now in the NXT family. So, and that might be a spoiler from NXT tapings, but everyone knew that Fantasma was signing anyway, so it's not that big of one. And the surprise one was Santana Garrett has jumped from Women of Wrestling to WWE, giving another blow to them as we fight to get the WOW's website on this one. We're not going after this problem we had with the Marlon Brando lookalikes again. But that was the week in wrestling, and we'll see you next week on Whacked Out Wrestling.
See you later.